The openings in the penalty phase of the Soto-Escalera case yesterday were interesting for a couple of reasons. We'll get to that in just a minute. Here's what we're talking about today. One of the reasons that they were interesting is because they were very brief. The state's opening consisted of talking about the aggravating circumstances, and the defense opening sought to seize the moral high ground, which is, I don't know, it seems odd in a situation where you have a double murder, a murder of, a young woman and her unborn child, that you would attempt to seize the high ground of morality by essentially impeaching witnesses who didn't show up for you by saying they lacked any moral, to call them moral cowards is what he said. I'm going to play them both in their entirety, and I will have some comments after each one.
Morning, everyone. All right, so as you've already found the defendant guilty of first-degree murder of Tanya Wise and first-degree murder of what would be her second son, the defendant's fifth child, Josiah Wise. And as the judge just explained to you, all of the evidence that was introduced during the guilt phase applies in the penalty phase. So all of the evidence that you learned, all of the testimony, that all applies in this case. And if you need to bring it, it'll go back with you again if you need it. So what is the first step that we talked about? And this goes back to jury selection. The state has to prove each of the aggravating factors beyond a reasonable doubt. And what you'll see when you go back and you think about the evidence that from the guilt phase applies to this case is that has all been proven. Each one of those have been proven by beyond a reasonable doubt. And the judge talked to you about 4 different factors. 3 of them apply to both victims. And when we talk about both counts are independent of themselves. The defendant can get a death sentence on both counts. He can get a death sentence on one or the other. He can get death for first-degree murder of an unborn child, or he can get the death sentence on just Tanya Wise. He can get life on both counts. That's your decision. But what the evidence that was presented in this case already shows is that each and every one of those aggravating factors has already been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And when you use your common sense, it's pretty clear. Because what's the first one? Contemporaneous, there's a capital conviction. Both of the murders you've already found him guilty of. That's what that factor is. It's been proven you've already found him guilty of both murders at the same time of both the victims. That factor's been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. What's the next one? Financial gain. How has that been proven? He told us in the garbage truck, I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose it. He needs to stop this before he has another child. It's going to ruin his marriage. It's going to cost him money. There's a potential for there to be a separation. He's got a new child to take care of. He wanted to eliminate the possibility of his wife finding out and the existence of him having another child. He did this for a financial gain. He tells Eric Alvarado days and times over and over again, what is his situation? It's been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. The fourth one that applies to just the victim, once again, you use your common sense. You think about this, the victim was less than 12. We know the gestational age of the baby. She was 8 months pregnant. Once again, the evidence that's already been presented in this case proves that beyond a reasonable doubt. So when you go back there, the first step should be those 3 easily proven beyond a reasonable doubt. What is the last one? It was done in a cold and calculated and premeditated. And the judge, he defined those to you. Cold is a cool, calm reflection. Let's go back to the garbage truck video. He planned this out for days, over and over again. He drives around in his garbage truck discussing, should I do it this way? Should I blow her brains out? Should I choke her? Would it be easier to get it done with one blow and be done with this? They look at many different spots of where he's going to dump the body. Is anyone going to find her out here? He thinks about what her life is like. No one's going to be looking for her. He talks about how he's going to lure her out there. It's all been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Any one of the four aggravating factors in and of itself can justify the death penalty if you go through the whole process and you follow the laws instructed by the judge. All four of them can, but each one is independent of itself, and the first step is, do you find that there are aggravating factors? And the evidence shows yes, all four of them are there. Now, do those aggravating factors justify the death penalty? Yes, I encourage you that they do. And when you go back and you look at all of the evidence in this case, you look at the aggravating factors, you consider the mitigating circumstances, the appropriate sentence is the death penalty in this case. Thank you.
I have to say, I like the approach taken by the prosecution. Instead of talking a great deal about some of the facts that go into making up the four aggravators that they have alleged here, instead of doing that, he just takes a very factual oriented approach. We've got this aggravator, we proved it. We got that aggravator, we proved it. It all came in during the guilt phase of this trial. And what happened in the guilt phase is just as applicable in the penalty phase. And when you finish looking at all of this evidence, my hope would be that, you would find him, sentence him to a sentence of death. Now, I've said a couple of times on here that I'm not generally in favor of the death sentence. I think that although it certainly stops recidivism in that one person, I don't think the availability of the death penalty has ever really stopped anybody from going forward with an act that was, heinous. The fact that it is not applied, well, this is going to sound like a really stupid thing to say, but I'm really good at that, so you'll have to put up with this. One of the things that would make it a deterrent is that whenever someone was convicted of murder one, there was no other penalty available than death. But because we want the judges to have discretion and because we want juries to have discretion, there are two penalties available. By virtue of making it, a 1 in 20 chance if you're convicted of getting the death penalty, the death penalty does not stand as an effective deterrent to crime. So the rationale that most people use is that, it stops the next one. It doesn't stop the next one. The next one goes on ahead and does it because he thinks I'll be different. Cognitive dissonance is one of the most powerful forces in the human mind. It will convince you, first of all, that you can get away with it. Second of all, that even if you're caught, you can beat it in court. And third, even if you can't beat it in court, well, they'll never get around to hanging me anyway. Those three factors make it not a deterrent. And as a result, I believe we should respect life, even lives that are as, I would say, morally decadent as Soto-Escalera's life. I think we have to respect that life. Jesus tells us that we should forgive, that in the Lord's Prayer, that we have to forgive us our trespasses as we forgive others. And because of that, I think that's what we're called to do. And that's one of the reasons why I oppose the death penalty. But I also understand that there are crimes that everybody feels like they're probably worthy of the death penalty, and I think this is probably one of them. But again, I hate to see the time and expense. Death penalty cases are a lot more expensive than are putting somebody in jail for life without parole. And the reason is because of the multiple appeals. They'll be at the United States Supreme Court 2 or 3 times on this case. And we'll be paying for the appellate defenders in this case for the next 15, 20 years in Florida. So, again, the issues with it are that it's uncertain. The hanging judge, Judge Parker, used to say, it is not the severity of punishment that deters crime, it's the certainty of it. If you just made it so that you're going to be locked in an iron cage for 23 hours a day for the rest of your life, I think that if anything is going to deter you from doing it, that would be enough. But people are not going to be deterred because some of us just don't have self-control. Now, the defense attorney got his shake at this, and here's what he had to say. Thank you. And the defense, wish to make an opening statement.
Mr. Perkins. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good morning. I have waited long to address you, but more about that later. The state will, I think, likely prove, probably already has, that this killing was done coldly and calculatedly and premeditatedly. I think they're going to prove that to you. So I think you probably will have an aggravator in your pocket. And I think regarding the victim, Josiah, who looked in the autopsy photos so much to me like a newborn baby, I think you're certainly going to find that he is under the age of 12. And this is the opportunity where I will tell you what the mitigators will be and what my witnesses will be and who they will be and what they will say. And I would love to tell you all about it, but I don't know. Since the conviction, many of my witnesses have melted away. They won't be here. Victims of their own moral cowardice, in my opinion. I could compel their appearance by subpoena, but I'm here to beg for a man's life, and I don't want people in the witness chair who don't want to help me do that. And so I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen beyond this afternoon. This afternoon, I will present a witness. His name is Raul Banasco. He is an expert in prisons, in the Florida prison system. He's worked in Florida. He's worked in other states. And he will tell you about the prison system and how Jose will fit into it. If you do vote to condemn him to death, I think your knowledge and common sense tells you that he will exist as a prisoner for years until that happens. And if you should vote for life without possibility of parole, then he will exist in prison forever and ever. And Raul Banasco will tell you how that might be, so that you have a fuller picture there. You will also hear from a lady who knew Jose a long time ago, knew him well, knew him intimately. She will come in and testify. She, at least, is not afraid of what people on social media might say about her. She will come in difficult circumstances and tell you a little bit more about Jose. That's all I have for this afternoon. The judge mentioned travel problems. That's my witnesses. We have a problem wrangling them and getting them here from Connecticut. I do expect that we are going to have some of Jose's family members arrive this afternoon in Palm Beach. We will speak to them this evening. The state will have a chance to speak to them tomorrow, and you will hear from one or two or three or maybe all four of them tomorrow. I'm not sure how many are actually going to get on the plane. And so I don't want to leave you in a mystery. I wish I could tell you who's going to be here and what they're going to say, but you and I will learn together probably. But the thrust of the matter is that you will have plenty of mitigators to consider. And because I am missing witnesses, will probably alter and enlarge some portions of my intended argument that will be addressing what it might mean to you and how you will make your moral decision. As you have learned in jury selection, it's your own personal moral decision. I'm going to offer you, how about that, some guidance in that way. So you will hear some witnesses for the defense this afternoon. I think you will hear from some of Jose's family members tomorrow. And then I think you're going to be making your decision or retiring to deliberate about it at some point tomorrow. That's all I have for you right now. Thank you.
That came across as very polished. He had obviously thought a great deal about this, and it's pretty clear that he believes very strongly that people should not be executed in this country. I know a lot of people feel that way. I know a lot of people don't feel that way. A lot of people feel that if we had more firing squads, it'd be a better country, but I don't think that's true. And the reason I don't think that's true is because the cases are out there. They're legion, where people have been exonerated at the last minute by DNA or some other technology. The idea that you execute people sometimes without all of the procedural safeguards that there should be, again, that speaks to me about the need not to have the death penalty at all. But again, until the legislatures change that or public sentiment changes or goes against it, it's going to continue to be the highest punishment that you get in this country. But of course, some states have already done away with it. Now, I thought he did a reasonably good job. We'll have to see what the witnesses are like. Certainly, I think if you put up mom and dad and the brothers and sisters and cousins and aunts and uncles and that kind, all the family members from Connecticut, it's not going to do very much good. Everybody has family members that love them. I mean, the poor lady, Tanya Wise, she certainly had family members who loved her. And so I'm not sure what effect that has, other than maybe putting mama on the stand and saying, please don't kill my son. I understand that's an awful thing to have to go do and stand up there and say that. But again, this really is an issue of personal morality. And if the state makes the case, everybody who sits on that jury has said in the right circumstance, they could impose the death penalty. That's a requirement to sit in order to have a panel be death penalty certified. Everybody on that panel has to say that under the right circumstances, they would impose that penalty. So we know that all those people are willing to do it under the right circumstances. We just don't know whether these are the right circumstances or not. Time will tell. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you being here today. If you have the opportunity today, try to do one kind thing to help somebody else. Any kind thing will do. Buy somebody a Coke, get them a cup of coffee. Anything that makes their day better. That would be a way to help make the world a better place. Because after all, isn't that what we're all after? Now, YouTube has a few things that they think you might be interested in, and they're going to be showing you that right up there.